you gotta get like a really tall tower. You gotta climb up it. You gotta get like a helicopter to there, and then you can reach the cloud. Once you reach the cloud, you gotta pull it right out. It goes like this.
So what in the world is going on?
All right, so now I'm just going to mute everyone again. But once again, so as we're going through this, please ask questions. There is no such thing as dumb questions. We're all learning here together. Andre is like the actual super stop motion person and animation person, which you'll learn. But ask any questions. Gianna, if you want to, can you monitor the chat for us? But so you can either write it in the chat or just unmute yourself at any time to stop us. All right.
I have a question.
Yep.
Are you in a live action recreation of Bob's Burgers restaurant?
That is correct. Yeah.
I just noticed that when I saw like your shoulder glitching out of the green screen. I was just like, why does that place look familiar? Have I ever been there?
All right. So are you, Andre. Oh, I muted you too, Andre. But I mute everyone. You're included. So just unmute yourself.
All right. Let me get a few more seconds so I can like pin in this, share my screen the way it's going to go.
So I say, just while Andre's setting up, we all know that our instruction days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, you'll work in between those days for your different projects. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're available if you have questions and things like that as
well. All right, I'm ready. Can y'all can still hear me, right?
Yep.
All right, so if everybody's muted, I'll just go ahead and wait. So welcome to the stop motion camp. And again, thanks to the pandemic going on right now, unfortunately it's virtual, but we still get it in with some good animation. So a little about us. My name is Dre. You'll get these slides later too, so you can use this as a reference. I'm a passionate and avid cartoon watcher. I always loved drawing and animation. And I, graduated from University of the Arts, if anybody's familiar with it. It's right downtown on Broad and Walnut. With a bachelor's degree in animation. I specialize in 2D and illustration. There you have Steve, looking all professional and swift and spiffy. He's been working at WHYY for the past 13 years. Steve was actually my teacher when I was in high school for when I went to the after school program, learning how to create documentaries and a little bit about later down the line. As you can see, you can do what he likes. He produces a series on WHYY. He has a show there. And his favorite show is Bob's Burgers, as you know. Indy isn't here today, but he'll be with us next week, starting next week. He's a little busy on another project involving PBS, but he'll get back to us a little bit later. He's an interesting guy, as you can see. He has a bunch of favorite animated films that he'll tell you all about. One thing about Indy is that he's a true film buff. He loves movies. I'm pretty sure he went to school for film and music, all of these strange things. And this is Gianna, or Miss G, and I met her a while in program of me just working at WHYY. She's very big on screenwriting and animation. I really hope to see one of her, scripts out there made to film one day. And more than that, I hope to, work on some of them. Now, let's get it. This is what you need. And I see most of you guys pretty much have this, except the last one. But we can go over, you need a smartphone or a tablet that can download, Stop Motion Studio. It's in the App Store. Google guys already have it already. If you don't have it, try to download it a little bit now, download it now. And then you need a phone tripod, but you don't necessarily need a phone tripod. You need something instead that's a little sturdy that can hold your phone in place while you take pictures. Now we'll get into a little bit more of what are those things you can use. One of them is actually a cereal box. So let's keep going. Y'all can't hear that, can y'all?
Did you share your audio when you shared your screen?
Yeah, I had to just take off my headphones. So right now, this is this video is something that's produced by Steve right here. You can see his video making skills. He's really good at it. But this is like explaining the stop motion studio app just a little bit before you use it. This explains the interface, so take notes on this part because you'll need it once you start up the program. And then we can come back to this anytime, but also I'll be doing like a little live demo a little bit after this. So let's start this video up. Y'all should be able to hear this stuff.
Hello, I'm Steve Dixon,
Yeah,
and welcome to WHYY's Education Virtual Stop Motion Animation Camp. In this video, I will show you how to use your cell phone along with Stop Motion Studio to make some great animation videos. First, we have to open Stop Motion Studio. On the landing page, if opening the app for the first time, you will see a sample video along with the new movie tab to begin your creation. Since I have made previous movies, you'll see them as well. When you select the project, it will take you to this screen. By selecting the question mark or the Learn More button, it will show you what each button is used for. The voiceover button allows you to use your own voice in your movie once you've finished your project and selected a clip to begin recording. The plus button allows the user to add images, titles, and music to your movie. However, this is only available if you purchase the Pro application. The settings button is where you would choose your film's frame rate, screen size, and movie quality, in which we want HD. There are more elements in there as well, but again, you have to pay for the Pro application. The capture button is where you want to go to create your stop motion film. The big red circle is our shutter button used to snap a photo. To the left of the screen is the onion skin slider, which you will learn more about later. Above the shutter button is our self timer, used to take additional photos at a set time to avoid touching or moving your camera. Below the play button are the camera settings. You can leave it on auto or set it manually, which we prefer. Once your movie is completed, you can export it in the main starting menu. Select your project by long pressing it and choose the share button at the top left and select export movie. And once your movie is done, you will find it in your camera roll. Now that you have these tips, let's create.
Okay, now that's it. That was pretty much how you use Stop Motion Studio. But now let's look at some examples of what I think. Just by a show of hands, in this movie before, this little short film. Any hands? Any? None? See, now you guys are in for a treat. Some of the best stop motion films are just independent ones. Now, that might seem pretty hard, which it is a tough thing, but don't be intimidated by it because there's some simple things going on with this, and we'll get into it. Has anybody ever heard of the animation principles? Just by a show of hands. Nobody? Oh, see, we have lots to talk about. So let's go into the next one. So tips for stop motion. First and foremost, the camera needs to be steady. That needs to be like the number one key thing. If the camera isn't steady, you'll kind of break the illusion of what you're going for. So if you ever seen the behind the scenes of a stop motion movie, which we'll show you, everything is shot using like a tripod. There are no like handheld shots, or there's some kind of device or machine that keeps the camera in place while they do this, because keeping it steady is always important. So most stop motion movies take place on a flat, even surface. Even if it's like, if anybody's seen the tale of Kubo and the Two Strings, you know that the sets, like especially the ship set, it seems like it's all crooked, but they actually built that whole ship and it's like on a flat, steady surface. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Tip, don't move your camera. So when you press your camera button, it shakes the camera a little bit. So a good thing to do is, like, if you have wireless headphones, you can often use the volume buttons for something to control the shutter button within stop motion app. So if you have wireless headphones, give it a go. Shooting even lighting. The best kind of thing to shoot for stop motion is use artificial light that you can control. In the other hand, like a desk lamp or the light from your room. Just do it and try to get the lighting as even as possible. Now, the best light always now is daylight, the light that comes straight from the sun outside, but you can't control that. So the light changes as the hours and sometimes even as the minutes go by. Like if a cloud is going through, and your lighting will always change. So, if you want to shoot something outside, you got to do it fast where the lighting is good, unless you're going to have a lot of, compensation for like light changes. So, I see, I already told you that. Shoot manual mode instead of auto to keep your movie from flickering. The mode will make changes based on your camera settings and lighting situation. So if you're on auto and you're trying to shoot your movie and a cloud rolls by, if you're outside, the whole color of your movie might change. And then once the cloud moves away, it'll go back. Auto best it uses like its computer brain, the camera's computer brain or your phone's computer brain, and it tries to best match the colors to best show what's going on in the scene. So if you're in like a really bright light, the colors might be bright, but if you tone it down, it might compensate and brighten the image up and make the colors a little more contrasted or duller. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Choosing a frame rate. I want you to know that animation moves in frames per second, just the same as movies. Most movies that you see move at 30 frames per second or 29.97. But and that's the TV standard, at least in movie standard, at least for here in America. Movies also move at 24. Animation, on the other hand, animation that you see on TV moves at 24 frames per second. Anything more than that is a little tougher because you'll have to actually draw more frames per second. Now, I would say for stop motion, ideally you want to stay between 4 and 24. But even within that, you only want to stick with 4 frames, 8 frames, 12, 24. Those are the frame rates you want to stay at, because if there ever comes a time where you need to stick this video in something else, you always wanted to keep it in a number that's divisible of the industry standards. So 4, 8, 12, 24. Again, 4, 8, 12, 24. Now I didn't put 6 in there because 6 is a little strange, but mostly those are the numbers: 4, 8, 12, 24. I like animating on 12s personally when I'm doing stop motion because it's kind of smooth for me. 24 is a little, even smoother, but it's like more work. And you know, 4 is
do, do, do you want to explain like how many photos you have to take, and I guess how it would be like you won't have to take as many photos, like you said, during it?
yeah. So for example, in animation, if you know animation within drawings, every drawing lasts for 2 frames for the most part. That's called animating on 2s. So for in the industry standard to get 1 second of animation, that's 12 drawings, since each drawing lasts for 2 frames. So the higher your frame rate, the smoother the animation, but also the faster it will be, but you'll have to do more drawings. So in stop motion, that transfers over is pretty much the same. Each picture you take will last for about 2 frames, unless you tell your camera to do something different. So keep that in mind. So if you want 1 second of animation in stop motion, you have to take about 12 pictures if you're on 24s. I like to do 12, since that means I only have to take 6 pictures. So I say 12 is the most comfortable. I went for it, and 8 is a little slower, and 4 is the slowest. Now 4 looks choppy, but we'll go into that a little bit more later. Next, a sturdy material to animate. Clay is great for stop motion animation, but everything needs to be like on about a flat surface unless you're using real objects and you're doing it outside. But like we'll talk about that a little bit later. Choose a sturdy material. So clay works good, toys work good, and I'll actually show y'all in the demo. And here you got me if you need any questions. There's our Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Instagram if you have one at WHYY.edu. And let's get into the live demo. Here, can you unmute everybody for me real quick, Steve? I see I got a question. Who has a question?
Amiri wanted to know if there will be group projects.
That's a good question. I didn't plan to be any group projects this go around because, you know, we're all virtual and we got like different situations. So you can't like really come into the space. So, I mean, if you want to do, I wouldn't suggest doing a group project. Like I wouldn't suggest it. But if you really, you know, go about it and think you want to do a group project, talk to me first and we'll see if it's possible. Who else got a question? See the chat, but am I still sharing my screen? What screen do y'all see?
We still
still
see the
sharing your
screen with the contact information.
All right. Let me see. I'm in the chat. Anybody else have a question? I see it's SNL Democrat Nicodine.
Nicodem.
Got it, Nicodem.
So it's more of it's like a mix between isn't every movie stop motion technically?
Technically, yeah. I mean, if you think
because
about
it's just the frames per second.
Yeah, everything with a video camera is like technically stop motion. If you want to think about it, like it definitely is. But then it gets confusing because you things in there like special live action has changed so much over the years. Made it now than what it is like live action. But technically, yes, everything is stop motion.
I find fascinating about animations is it basically is a mirror to how our eyes function.
What do you sort of, kind of, but you also can play with it a little bit. You can play tricks on your eyes with animation.
Exactly, because our eyes just save things as frames and then just present it up to our brains. Instead of just taking a picture and then just showing a bunch of those pictures.
What frame rate do you think our eyeballs and brain?
I have no idea. We could Google it though. I'm definitely tempted to now.
But any questions? All right. If there's no more questions, let's go over the live demo real quick. Let's talk about the things that I was mentioning. So So can y'all see my screen? All right, you see my screen. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna do this live demo. So right here, this is my standard setup. Not a standard setup, but this is my quick setup for my stop motion film or anything. So I got a few different things going on over here. And I want y'all to pay attention to that. So first and foremost, I have black felt for my ground. Now this isn't required, but I went out and bought this so I can best show you the lighting effects like effectively. And I have a backdrop. So it'll just make contrast and makes things easier to see so I can explain it to you guys. I have a different few mediums of materials out here that all work well with stop motion. So you see I have paper right here that describes my backgrounds. So this is like my little cactus thing right here. You see some cactuses in the back. I don't know, I can't really see my computer screen right there, but these are my cactuses in the back. Here are some toys I have. Some of my favorite toys is an armadillo and a lizard, or a Komodo dragon, if you like the technical terms. I got some clay, my clay skills. This thing got dirty. That's supposed to be a, can anybody tell me what that's supposed to be?
A skull?
Thank you. See, now Steve acting like he ain't know. Thank you. So that's a skull.
Yeah, I thought it was a soccer ball.
Gosh. Here's some clay. This is just a regular lump of clay right here. And he's made out, this is the same type of clay that my skull is in. And I have a den for the lizard, which is just a tissue box covered in felt. Also, this plate back here is like just blue felt, some landing. And these can be anything you want them to be. But for me, I had these guys as people. So let me show you another little thing that I like.
Andre, what are those little pegs like? I mean, I know you're using them as people, but what are they in real life? Like, what is their function? Just curious.
Really, they're pegs. They're called little wooden people pegs. But
Wow.
But on the bottom, when you see that little hole,
Yeah.
there's you like stick a needle up there and you can hold them in place. And I think you can like paint them or you add more things to them because it's a soft kind of wood. So you can like kind of cut it and add stuff to it. Like anybody familiar with a shoe tree?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a shoe tree, the thing that keeps the shape of your shoes. It's like it's the same kind of wood, like it's bad. But hold on. Now I'm gonna show y'all some material. I'm still going through the materials, and then we're gonna go through the demo of using this thing. I'm still. Hold on. Now, right here, I also got two types of clay. If y'all can hear it, I got two types of clay here. One is Play-Doh. This is like the easy stuff that you learn from elementary school. I'm sure all of us has been to elementary school. Lots of Play-Doh memories. And this is the more professional grade kind of clay, which is called Sculpey. Sculpey is what they use inside like the movies and all these other stop animation films. One thing about Sculpey and Play-Doh that makes it so great is that they're non-drying. So you can leave them out and they won't harden over. But you also can bake Sculpey in the oven and it becomes permanent if you want to bake it. Sculpey is more commonly used in professional animation industry. If you look that kind of stuff up, like in films like Kubo and the Television Strings, Paranorman, all of those, Frankenweenie, any Tim Burton film for the most part. Sculpey is like the go-to. It also comes in clay also comes in a bunch of weird colors. Like you got some bright colors, you want to do rainbows. You can also have like muted colors, which is like grays, depending on whatever you need. Now, let's talk about a few tools real quick. which I had, but I cannot find for the life of me right now. Hold on. All right. I want to see if this is going to work. All right. Let's talk about some tools. Now, if you're going to work with clay, there are some tools that you might find that makes your life a little bit easier. Has anybody ever seen any of these things before? Anybody ever seen a movie? Has anybody?
I have.
You seen them before?
I've seen them before.
Yeah.
So good. Now, I won't tell you which each individual name of what these tools are because people call them different depending on where you are. And a lot of people just frankly don't know what the names of them are. They just use them. And the reason that I won't tell you the names is because they're easy to make. So this can basically just be a popsicle stick if you have popsicles in your house. But this is also used to cut clay, but also used to smooth it over. So if you don't want your clay to have a bunch of fingerprints on it after you're done, making your shape, you can use this to smooth it out and it gets rid of all of those fingerprints. It takes a little while. You can also do it with this metal piece at the end, that also smooths it. At this end, this is called it's not called, but it's like a carbon piece. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let me get it in the black. See this little triangle? That's
Yep.
carved clay. So, and it does it neatly. So if I grab a piece of clay, which I just had, you can kind of like see that you can take out a neat chunk of it and then you can just like carve that out. I'm kind of off balance right now because of how I am between the camera. But you can just like carve out neat chunks of clay with that. And one thing I also want to get into right now, what helps with these tools is that you don't need these per se exactly. You can just get a regular butter knife or a popsicle stick or even a toothpick. One thing that toothpicks do well is that if you're working with paper, you need to move certain small parts. You just move it with a toothpick. I'll show you an example of that later. But it helps you move things, especially if you're in a complicated scene where things are like sitting on top of each other. You can just push a little bit of things out the way without affecting the rest with your huge hand. All right. So now let's get into it. So, also there's some other things that I want to show you guys. So ideally you'll have lights. If you have a desk lamp in your room, you're more than halfway on your way, but flashlights also work just as fine, or just as well, I should say. So up here, you can see I have a desk lamp. It's just a regular desk lamp. I'm pretty sure somebody has one in your house. If not, you can also use a flashlight. And here on the other side, you can see when you looked at my chat video, you can see I got a bigger standing light. You don't need that per se. You can just use one light or two lights, no matter what happens. Now, if your lamp is too strong, like it is in this case right here, can y'all see that?
Yep.
You can tape a piece of paper to your lamp, like if I did here, and you can just cover it to diffuse the light a little bit. Now, it doesn't look like it. See what I'm talking about? Now, I'll show you a better example. Let's look at my scene again. You can see the people standing around the lake. You see how bright it is? And if I move the paper down, If the light is still on, if I move the paper down, I can soften it. So here's with the paper off, here's with the light off. Here's the light on, soften it, light off. Now if you really want to get technical with it, you can animate this over time. Like if you have the timer set, you can like, say you have like 10 seconds or something, you can take a picture of this, move it a little bit, take a picture of that, move it a little bit, take a picture, move it, take a picture, move it, turn it off. And then you can animate the time of day. So let's hop into it. I'm gonna set up a few things real quick. Move this set. Put this. All right. Okay, guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna set up a few things on my stop motion program. So what I have right here, you see this little play button next to the play button, or the picture taking button. You'll see a little clock. It's a representative of a stopwatch. And this is the timer. So if you're by yourself and you need to take pictures and you're kind of like away from me, if you want to avoid, sorry, I gotta catch my breath. If you want to avoid shaking your camera by taking pictures and pressing your phone physically, I suggest that you use the timer. So, and then it gives you time to move things. So just for speed's sake, I'll set this to 10 seconds. And I'll go to done, right? And then I want y'all to pay attention to something called over here, this sliding bar with the mesh and then the number 1, that is called your onion skin. This allows you to see the live view and the frame that came before. So if you leave it in the middle, I'll show you what happens. So I'm gonna start my timer and it's gonna take a picture in 10 seconds. Then I'm gonna start. And you hear those beeps, that tells you when the picture is about to be taken. So I'm gonna just move him straight on up. Can y'all see how the onion skin works? Use your onion skin to guide how much you want to move your character. Remember, the more space he moves, the faster it will be, but also the more choppier. If you move the space, if you move him a little bit by each time, the movement is going to appear a lot smoother. The one thing that I like to do is I like to move him halfway. So I keep him half in his last pose and half out. I try to batch it up best is like that. And then I'll move him again.
That's a great tip, Dre. Thank you.
Yeah, half in, half out. That keeps and it helps you control the animation a little bit more. And also, if you move in multiple characters, things won't get lost. Now, this one person is like a very simplified example of what it is, but I know like a lot of Lego movies, they use this tip too. Because at the end of the day, the Lego movies are those little characters, they're not CG. Those characters are like basically wooden people, except they have limbs. So I'll move him like up there. He's coming to the water. All right, now I'm gonna move him a little more. Then I'm gonna push this guy out.
Just curious, are you gonna make the Komodo dragon like shimmy so like it's moving left and right?
Once you get out the box, yeah. That's a good tip. What is that, Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That was the plan, but he gotta get out the box first so I won't like destroy his house.
Yeah, I was curious because I felt like you were gonna do like this cute little this, what's the term? Shimmy, right? Shimmy?
Uh,
Oh my gosh. Bob. A little Bob.
I can't, like, y'all probably can't see it, but he has a long tail, so then he just like eats the person or something like that. I'm gonna change the light. Then, can y'all see my hand? Whatever. Come on. I'm gonna take like a few more pictures, like maybe like 5 or something. Wait, my hands was in there. But I'm gonna show y'all. That's good, actually, because that's what I want to show y'all too. And I'm gonna do this. And we can like, I'm gonna move them a lot just to show y'all what I mean. Okay, I'm gonna stop that. Now, if you want to play back what you have, you can just go to the play button right here, and I'll play it from the beginning. Now, do y'all see my little short film? Okay, now, is it clear what's going on? Okay.
Very clear.
Now, of course, this is like, I didn't just create the Lego movie. It's a very little whack thing, but all the principles of what we're kind of going into right here will be kind of, it'll make sense a little bit later.
You have made the most realistic looking Jurassic Park movie ever.
But
Yeah.
But for example, though, keep in mind, you see how my little wooden toy turns into something else later? That is called replacement. We'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later, but that's one of the most popular stop motion techniques. And and it might look cheesy at first, but people's brains do a good job of filling in the gaps of information. So you don't even see the wooden person's body anymore after he gets like attacked by the lizard, but you know he just like died or something because it's a skull.
Died.
So it fills in the rest. Now let's talk about the frames where you mess up and you might have your hand in there. So if I click this right here, you see my sliding bar, I can kind of still see my live view and my view that's like inside the frame. If I just want to see the picture that I'm on inside the timeline, I slide it all the way back down to the 1 just to see the picture I'm currently looking at. So you can delete it. When you got pictures where your hand is in the way, always just let it take the picture and click a second one and take a second picture. See what I did there? I kind of like moved my hand. So you can just go in there, you click on it, and you can delete it. Now, one thing is you kind of want to get it right the first time though, because stop motion is all forward. You can't like go, it's linear editing. So you can't go back and like fix something.
Just to stop you for a second, Andre, I don't know if people are following along with their phones. I guess it's trickier, but you will have to long press the clip in your timeline, and another pop-up screen will come up where you can delete it from there on your device.
Yeah. So that's pretty much, and if you want to play it again. Now let's talk about frame rates a little bit. So for me, it's a little gear. So right now I'm using this program on my computer since I couldn't demo it from y'all. I'm taking pictures with my phone, but I have it hooked up to my computer so I can show y'all in this chat. So let's talk about frame rates for a second. If I click this wheel, right, and I go to this little, another kind of stopwatch or clock, this is frame rate. So you can see I'm at 12 frames per second. That's what I like to animate at because that's where I'm most comfortable. But if I change, you can also change it along the way. So if I take it to 24, we'll see it'll be faster, but we'll see how it looks. Sorry. I see how it looks at 24. It's smoother, but it's a little fast. It's a little too fast. The other popular frame rate for stop motion, hold on, the other popular rate for stop motion again is, if you remember, is 12. So you seen it on 12?
24.
24, you seen it on 24? 8 and 4. Let's look at it on 8. A little slower. That's a little too slow. And as you can imagine, 4 is even slower. Like I said, now when you're doing professional stop motion animated films, most case scenario you will be moving on 24 frames per second. But for like internet purposes and like sharing movies with your friends and families, I would use 12 because like that's where I'm most comfortable with. But you can also explore and like see what you like the most. I like 12. Again, like Steve said, you can shoot. You want the HD quality, I think. So that's done on that. And you play it back one more time. See how it looks. All right. So this next project we're going to be doing, has everybody been able to sign into the Google Classroom? So the next assignment we're going to do, you see is a storyboarding assignment, and it's called morphing. Morphing is the technique that was done in the stop motion that I showed you. And that all of that was mostly morphing techniques. That's when you take something and change its shape. So like you take a picture of one thing and along the way it changes its shape into another. And it can get confusing sometimes with stop replacement animation, but we'll talk about that in a second. So let me share another slide with you guys. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a little bit.
We're gonna have to get Catherine in the Google Classroom.
Huh? Where's
Catherine, can you put an email that you want us to send the link to in the chat, please?
Oh, you want me to put my email in the chat?
No.
Say that again.
You want me to write my email in the chat?
No need. I just gave you a link.
If you want, you can send it privately to Andre, and so he can send you the Google Classroom link.
Oh, I just set the Google Classroom link in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the convenient thing about Google is you can just send them a link to the web page you're on, and boom, they're in.
All right, so try to get into that. See if you can get into the Google Classroom in the chat, Catherine.
Okay.
All right. So can y'all see this? Y'all see?
Yes.
Oh yeah, y'all see my face. Okay. My beautiful, beautiful face. All right, y'all see this?
Yes.
Morphing, stop motion technique.
Yes. So this is going to be our first assignment, but this is the second part of your first assignment because the first part of it is storyboarding. Now I don't have a presentation for that because storyboarding is pretty straightforward, but we can talk about it. Sorry. So the morphing is a stop motion technique where an object changes its shape for a certain number of frames. It's one of the fastest and easiest techniques out there that can add organic life to any animated film, as you saw in the last one. It's not very subtle, so it's easy to spot. So here's one of my favorite examples of morphing called Cecile. Have any Sesame Street fans here?
Oh yeah.
I know, so most of y'all probably, I know 1990, like none of y'all were born in 1990, but here, let's look at this real quick. This is the perfect example.
She can roll, she can ride the wheel. She's got a rubber soul and her name is Cecile. Cecile, no one can match ya. Cecile,
I'm gonna catch you.
They say I should be green, yellow, red, or white, or blue. They say there should be 2 of me, or 8, or 23. But why should I be someone else? I'm happy being me. Okay, Cecile, it's time to try a new design. Be a cone, a cube, a pyramid. Oh, girl, you look divine. Turn platters, try the body. Dress yourself in filigree. Well, I know they're trying to help me, but hey, I'm happy being me. I wanna be me. Yes, I wanna be me. Ain't bragging, but gee, with all that you see, that's exactly who I love to be. I am on your trail around here. I am proud and I'm free. Happy as a clown that I am what I am. I wanna be free. Happy as a clown that I am what I am. Yes, I wanna be me.
All right, I played that all out because I love it, but let's break it down real quick. So, oh wait, here's another one. Sorry, here's another one. This one is good too. Okay. So I'm gonna now I'm gonna use it how it looks in the industry. Okay. Anybody familiar with the movie Coraline?
Yes.
I see a few. Okay. Now, let me see. Anybody like the movie Coraline here?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now I'm gonna show you something. Do you think this is an example of morphing or something else? Damn, what is these ads?
They say even the proudest spirit can be broken.
with love. Of course, chocolate never hurts. Like what? They're cocoa beetles from Zanzibar. I want to be with my real mom and dad. I want you to let me go. Is that any way to talk to your mother? You aren't my mother. Apologize at once, Coraline. No. I'll give you to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! What are you doing? You may come out when you've learned to be a loving daughter.
Okay. I'm going to ask 2 questions in the survey real quick. And, ew, why is it like, all right, everybody pay attention to your check. I'm going to ask a question real quick, all right? All right, did y'all get that? No? Not yet? Okay. You create 1 poll for this meeting. Add it. All right, so tell me what y'all want to do. We're going to break one of these films down by by frame. Which one? I'll give y'all a few minutes to see. Once it hit 100%. All right, I got another poll for y'all real quick. Is the question at the end? It's close. We waiting for 2 more people to answer one though. Oh gosh. Okay. So you can see like we got 50-50. So can y'all see that? Y'all make this complicated, but Here, let's ask this next one. So for Coraline, what do y'all think? All right. So we got the results. Just 2 more people. Well, I can end it here because it's not even close. So everybody think it was something else. So I gave y'all, and for the people, 100%, but chances are I'm like 80% say like you're right. But, yeah, go ahead. Book, so yeah, I heard cheating.
Yeah, Booga's been here. I can give you a puppet picture for each.
Would you like to read it?
No, I got pretty much a whole bunch of art books. So the technique that used, does anybody remember the name of the technique I used before with the dead guy? Oh yeah, y'all all are muted. Remember what I said? It was called replacement. So each time the face changes, that's pretty much a brand new face that they use for a lot. Now, one of the things that they do is like do mouse sequences with that. But let's break down this film real quick, frame, and then we'll go into the, not frame by frame, but we're going to go into the demo of how to do squash and stretch, which is an animation principle. So, God, real quick. I don't want to like take up too much. Can y'all see this moving? Y'all see my face? Okay. So can y'all see this moving frame by frame?
No, sir. We just see you.
Man, y'all out here. All right, can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's stop it right here. This is basically morphing. It's just changing its shape.
Click close. Click close. No, click the X button. Click the X button.
So this is it changing its shape. Every time, if you want to move frame by frame on YouTube, it's the comma and the period keys. So, and there's a pause. One picture, another picture, another picture, another picture. Looks a lot easier when you play it frame by frame, right?
Definitely.
So, and you can see there's a big jump here, but since it moves so fast, see that big jump? Since it moves, that might be replacement. But since it moves so fast, you can't even really tell. Now let's go back to the demo.
Miri has a question.
Amiri has a question. Go ahead, Amiri.
Yeah.
What I was gonna ask is, one thing that's always fascinating about claymation, especially in the first one, was how they're able to get the models off the ground for split seconds.
We'll talk. Oh, actually, let me talk. I knew somebody was going to bring that up. So, one thing that happens with that is something just called. Hold on.
Yeah, there.
So one thing they do, I'll get into that a little bit later, but let's talk about the squash and stretch real quick, or the morphing animation. So I'll grab my play, wherever it is.
Animation.
I just want to ask: is everyone okay on time? Because I know we're going over like our allowed time, but is everyone okay on time?
Where the heck is the little play ball that I just had, you know? All right, so hopefully y'all can best see this. So for my play, can y'all see that guy?
Yep.
So I got
Fellow is.
now. Also, don't underestimate the the use of googly eyes. I mean, it looks dumb, but like googly eyes instantly adds character to your animations, man. It's like ridiculous. It's like a pair. People always look for the eyes of the character first. So, one thing you can do with squash and stretch is like plant your character in place, and then take a picture of him as he is, and then change just a little bit at a time. See, then he gets a little skinnier. You change him a lot. He gets a little skinnier. You change him some more. He gets a little skinnier. See where I'm going with this? Now I don't even have to like take pictures, and then you can like, because it's straightforward. You change them, then you take a picture. So then you can like double stretch them. Now you can squash them. You can squash them. Then you can squash them even more, and then you can stretch them out again. Stretch them. You can stretch them. You can stretch them. You change that again. See where I'm going, y'all? That's basically morphing, and it's the easiest one to do. Just change a little bit about your character, and then take a picture of it each time you do. For example, this also works with paper. Let's say you have a clean sheet of paper, just like right on the ground. One thing you can do is you can crumble it just a little, then take a picture, crumble it a little more, take a picture, crumble it even more, take a picture. And then if you put that in your timeline and you play it back in reverse, it'll look like you have a crumbled paper straightening itself out. So does everybody follow me?
Yeah, I'm with Dre. Can you speak a little bit more to the complexities of the morphing as far as like in the Cecile video, and I believe it was in the other video where they kind of combine the colors and everything. That looked really scary and hard, and like I want to do it, but it looks so difficult.
Let's talk about it. Even though we gotta get them on their assignment in a second, but let's talk about it. Why can't I So you gotta think. So for Cecile, it might be a little harder to see because this is way before the days of HD. Again, this is 1990, so and that means they probably made this in 1989 when it actually aired, like when they was actually making it. So let's talk about this. So do y'all think that's replacement or morphing? What do y'all think?
It looks like it's a little of both.
Morphing.
So her body
replacing the lips.
Her body is more likely morphing, or her lips are replacement. So you can also mix and match this up. Now this might just be a straight replacement. Now remember to keep Cecile, nice and smooth and free of fingerprints. Y'all remember that little tool all about? Like could be a little popsicle stick. If you don't using clay, you don't want fingerprints, you can use a popsicle stick. Now let's talk about what Ms. G said, like, this is a decent one right here. I like that. I like that. But no, let's talk about what Ms. G said. See, this is just an example of morphing right here. It gets flatter, then they stretch her up. And they bring her back. That's all morphing. Now the lips are replacement. Don't worry about the lips. The lips are replacement. But let's talk about the different colors. that's cutout morphing, that's even more complicated. For her, they probably use like Sculpey clay, since it's like, now the colors are just replacement. So this is one right here. This is an example of replacement. They just take her and they just add more of her, see? And then they replace that with another thing. That's replacement. And now if you go with the colors, let's see what she added colors. See, she's bouncing, see? You can see the in-betweens, but they just replacing it. They made a new ball, and they just made a new ball each time. And then she bounces again. Another one just appears. That's replacement.
Got it.
It's when you're watching it in like real time, or I should say, quote unquote, real time.
Why should I be someone else?
It's too fast for you to notice what they're doing.
So there, Andre, I about to say, I guess just for clarity, we don't expect you all to make anything that looks like this. It'll be great. And also, if you all have Play-Doh like me, I have two colors, so I will not be mixing anything, because if I mix them, then I will not have two colors. I will have one color. So I suggest do not mix your colors. And our projects, one won't be even close to 2 minutes. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. And actually, our Zoom meeting is going to like probably shut down on us even soon. But do you want to just talk about squash and stretch a little bit, and then we have a longer project for you with morphing. But after Andre teaches this squash and stretch, really what we just want you to do, it doesn't have to be after this, but if you're ready to try to even create after this, you can do so. But on your off days, like tomorrow, you can play around with your app. Hopefully all of you have your apps downloaded. And we really just want you to get the feel of it. So if you just want to play around with your elements to learn how the app works, we're going to do that. And then Wednesday, we're going to come back and go over storyboarding. So, and storyboarding helps us, like, as Andre, he didn't sort of explain it, even though you see it, is that stop motion is very linear, right? You have to go forward each time. It's really hard to go backwards with stop motion. So to be able to plan it out. So like if you want to start out with a square, then make that a circle, then go into like a triangle, you have to make sure you exactly know what you're going for. So Wednesday, Andre will go over storyboarding. We'll put your storyboards together, and then that Wednesday and Thursday you'll do your morphing project, and then Friday we'll watch them. But Andre now just going to show you a little bit about squash and stretch, if I said it right.
All right, let's go. Okay. Here's animation principles. Can y'all see this presentation?
Yeah.
So animation principles are created by two famous Disney animators, Frank Johnson and Ollie Thomas. Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas. Goodness gracious. In their 1981 book, The Disney Illusion of Life. Now, as far as I know, these guys are really old. They were born probably like, so they passed on. But the things that they discovered about animation is pretty much the same. There's 12 principles in all of animation, but the main ones that pertain to stop motion is the ones I've highlighted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 principles, but more like 4.5, because pose to pose, you don't really ever use that in stop motion. So squash and stretch is my favorite principle, and it's also the one that morphing uses all the time. So here's a video by a guy named Alan Becker, who animated all of these things 2D. So here's the squash and stretch.
Hey guys, so I decided to make a video series dedicated to the 12 principles of animation, as described by the legendary animators Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. So the first principle is squash and stretch. This is the principle that animated objects will get longer or flatter to emphasize their speed, momentum, weight, and mass. Here's a bouncing ball that has squash and stretch. And here is one without squash and stretch. See the difference? The amount that an object squashes and stretches says something about its mass. The more squash and stretch, the softer the object. The less squash and stretch, the stiffer the object. This first one looks like a water balloon, and the second one probably would be a bowling ball. Squash and stretch applies to characters too. Look at how this figure is stretching from the speed that he's coming down with, and then he squashes after he lands before settling in his pose. You can also use squash and stretch to exaggerate facial expressions. Let's add some squash and stretch to this face. When his eyes are closed, his face is squashed, and when he opens his eyes in disbelief, his face stretches up and settles back to normal. It's very important to keep the volume of the object consistent. This is what a lot of people mess up with when they're first trying to do squash and stretch. They'll elongate the ball like this and flatten it like this. This is what you should not do. The overall volume of the ball must be the same. So as the ball gets longer, it also gets narrower. When it gets flatter, it also gets wider. The same goes with cubes. If you're going in with one line, the other lines must go in the opposite direction. The cube should start out narrow, get flat, get narrow again, and then rest. In-betweening with cubes is easy because you can measure the line in between the two lines and then connect them to make the cube. If you master squash and stretch with cubes, the next step is to try to do it in 3D. Another important note is that the ball does not have to be stretching the entire time that it's falling. When it's just starting to fall, it should have its normal shape for the most part. And then when it's just about to hit the bottom, that's when it has the most stretch. So do not overdo squash and stretch.
Okay. Now, you might ask me how that relates to animation and stop motion. So let's take a quick look real quick back at Cecile and how it relates to stop motion morphing. Let's do it right there. What is this pose? Out of the principle, which one is this? Somebody just yell it out to me. Nobody?
Stretch.
Yes, thank you. Was that, who was that? Ms. G? That's the stretch.
Guilty.
That's the stretch. And after the stretch comes the
Squash.
Thank you. That's the squash. It happens all the time. So let's do another one. Every time there's a stretch or a squash, the other has to follow. So every time you have a stretch, a squash should come right after that if they're going to return to their normal shape. So let's see, let's get another one. All right, here's a good one. This is
Squash.
And this is
Stretch. No.
Now notice how when she's squashing, the ball gets wider. As she stretches, she becomes more narrow. You have to keep these things in mind if you want this to keep the same mass. Because if you don't, your object gets bigger. It just grows or it shrinks. So if it gets wider, if it squashes, it needs to get wider. If it stretches, it needs to get flatter. See what I mean? Narrow, stretch, wider, squash. Narrow, wide, flat, and tall. Just like that. So that's your and the thing, this one is like Cecile has lips and no fingerprints, so that's hard to look at. So here's another one that's incompatible, has more fluid motion, and is smaller pieces. Why can't I play it? So, but the principle is exactly the same. So we got a ball right here. What would this be?
Stretch.
Yeah, this is the stretch. That's and it moves and it moves. And then that's the, whatever this is. That's the squash. There's your squash. And this is your stretch again. There's your squash. Squash. Then here comes the stretch. The stretch. Squash is back to normal.
I'm going to stop you here, Andre.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, like I said, so right now, hopefully this was a good day of class. We packed a lot into it. Hopefully we won't run over time before. But just as homework, even though no one likes homework, but you are all here for a reason to learn, and the only way to learn is get hands on. So I would say for tonight, make sure that you downloaded your apps. If not, download your apps. And just again, just to let you all know, like I say, there are certain elements that you cannot use or that you can't sort of do with the free version. And we didn't really even go over like how to make things jump or appear to fly, which is a little bit harder to do, which you see in a lot of these morphing or a lot of the 2 projects Andre just showed. But in order to even do that, you have to have the paid app. Now, once again, we told you this camp, we would show you how to use things that are free. But it's up to you whether or not you want to buy the app, or I guess really it's up to your parents or not if they want to buy you all the app. I will say that stop motion is pretty boring without sounds. But you have to use another app if you want to add music and things into your project, and we can show you how to do that. But if you did want to purchase the app, which once again you do not have to, but if you want to, you can. You can add music, you can add sound effects in it, and you can sort of make things fly because it has like a little eraser effect in it. So the paid version will allow you to do more, especially within the app. But we can teach you how to at least add like some sound effects or music by going to a secondary editing app. But make sure you download your app. And I would say for your project, and if you're not in the Google Classroom, let us know. And you can upload your projects there in the classwork section. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with Google Classwork, but if not, just send us a message. Mary, I see your hand. I'm going to get to you.
I know. I was just going to wait.
Yeah, I got you. But I would say for tonight, download your app. And right now, we don't want you to actually do the morphing project, but I want you to upload an example of squash and stretch. It can be the most simplest thing, but on your app, try to make sure you can get a squash and stretch. It can literally be 2 seconds or however long squash and stretch will take you. So make sure, download your app, perform a squash and stretch with whatever material you have. Of course, you'll have to be able to squash it and stretch it. So make sure you have that and upload that to the Google Classroom by Wednesday morning.
Now, I see Jeremy's question. Aren't we supposed to storyboard? Yes, by all means.
We ran out of time.
Yeah, so you don't really, for this one and this one only, you don't really have to storyboard it, but if you do, upload it to the classroom in the assignment where you see part 0 or ground 0, and I'll be more than glad to help. I'll be more than happy to look at your storyboards and go over it with you guys.
Now, sorry to cut Andre off because I see. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, our Zoom won't cut off. We made it 2 hours, so that means it technically gives us 5 minutes. But so Wednesday, Andre will go over storyboarding, and so we'll put your stuff together. So Wednesday may be a shorter day. We'll go over the storyboarding. You can start thinking about morphing in your head, and then Wednesday afternoon, or when we're done the class, you can start doing your actual morphing project, and then we'll watch it and go over it Friday. Like I say, today we just want you to get familiar with the app and just perform a squash and stretch movement, upload that to the classroom, and then we'll go over storyboarding and everything Wednesday. Was everyone able to log in or a participant of the classroom? Some of you may have not got your personal email, so you may have to ask your parents too, like if it's in their emails. But if not, you can send Andre, me, or Gianna your emails, and we can send you a link to it as well.
We have everyone because there's 14 participants here, minus the 3 teachers, which is you 3. That's 11 people, and there's 11 people in our Google Classroom.
I believe we're missing a few people too, but I guess they're not here, so I wouldn't even. I'll be talking to ghosts. So, Mary, what's your question?
I was thinking one thing that I've been able to use between me and my brother's phones is if we make a Gmail and then we literally just buy the app on that account, we could just log everyone into that same account and get the app for the price of one. That way no one's disadvantaged by not having parents who are able to just buy a $5 app.
That is true. You can, I guess, share with siblings and even other people if you wanted to share that information. But like I said, you don't have to buy the app. It's totally up to you. There are advantages, but I don't have the paid for app. But just let us know. And once again, if you have any difficulties, we'll upload this Zoom call to the Google Classroom. The video I made of how to use the app will also be uploaded to the Google Classroom.
Also, I put in the slides that I showed you for morphing. If you want to use those as examples, those are in the classroom right now. I encourage you, when you start your project, go back and look at it for reference.
But is everyone okay for today? Or any other questions before we leave, or everyone understands the project they have to do? And everyone has, I guess, Play-Doh or something would be the easiest if you don't have Play-Doh.
You can use paper.
They have paper, or you can get it from like the dollar store, all types of things. Everyone's okay?
Use tape, cups, bowl.
All right, so I think we're going to end it here. And then, like I said, if you have any questions, you can email any one of us. You can also, I'm not sure if you can ask questions through through Google Classroom, but we're here if you need any help. And then we'll see you all Wednesday at 11:30 as well.
Hold on, I'm going to answer Jeremy's question.